Hey team, welcome back to another incredible episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader Podcast. This is your host, Mark Jewell, and today I am joined by the CEO of Pivot Bio. His name is Chris Abbott. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Man, excited to have you on here. Been waiting for this one for a while, but you get the same opening question everybody gets. So what does it mean for you, Chris, to be intentional?
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me, Mark. So for me, intentional, I sort of break down into two camps. In order for me to be successful with my day, I always start with being intentional about my time or how I compartmentalize my day. It's and I think everybody would say this, most limiting resource that we have. And I find that, especially given the role that I'm in, you can just get sucked into just nonstop work, right? Or a nonstop firefight or a nonstop, you get excited and you want to work on something. And for me, I've got to be intentional about how I use my time and structure my day. I've got 3 little girls. And so it's important for me to be able to spend some time with them. For me personally, I need just a break in the day somewhere. They give me energy. And so I've got to be intentional about how I use my time and spend my time. And then the thing is, whatever I'm doing, is to sort of be there and be present or be prepared so that you can be focused. So if I'm with my kids, I'm there. Like you won't ever be able to schedule a meeting with me from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. if I'm home. It's just never going to happen because I want to be there with them, and then they'll go to sleep, and I might go work or work out or do whatever, spend time with my wife. If I'm at work, I really want to be prepared and be focused. And so I don't want to waste that time as I compartmentalize it. And so it's hard, right? It's a lot easier to say that than to do it, especially when you're running around with a million things going on. But for me to be intentional, I got to be able to compartmentalize. And then I really got to find a way to be prepared and be present to make the most use out of the time for whatever I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Do you find it a challenge to set those boundaries and make sure that, like, do you have to defend that time?
I mean, yeah, every day. I mean, it starts right away in the morning. I've made it a habit to not start or end my day right up to a meeting. So I think I'm going to be at work at 7 or 7:30 or 8, or I'm in a meeting that starts at one time. Don't like literally start your day that minute you can be there. You got to be able to plan and say, okay, here's what I'm going to do today. Here are some of the objectives I want to get out of, make sure, am I prepared? Do I need a quick minute to just get my mind right? That's hard. And you've got to be able to do that. So I've started to create sort of a shouldering effect on my day so that I can sort of wind up and wind down to do that really well. I don't find it hard, that 6:30 to 8:30 block that I mentioned with my family. Not hard at all. I've just decided literally you are not going to get that time if you're not one of the four girls in my house. But there's nothing going to happen. But the thing that I actually find the hardest is actually the time for yourself. It's easy for me to push that out and say, well, I got to be there for my kids or I got to be there for my team. The thing as of late that I haven't done a great job in is spend the time for myself, whether that's working out, whether it's trying to take a break in the middle of the day to refresh. You just sort of go and it's like, yeah, I'll worry about that later. And that's a pretty slippery slope. So that's sort of the thing on my mind today is how do I protect a little bit of time to invest in myself? Because that typically can fall low on the priority list unintentionally.
Yeah. It's one of the most intentional things I think we can do is make sure that we're creating that space and that time. And one thing I've been working on lately is re-documenting and sort of recalibrating what those early hours of the day look like, that what I call the first fruits of the day, because there's something really sweet about those, depending on what time you get up, let's say 5, 6 in the morning, that you don't feel the same again throughout the day.
Yeah.
Right. There's something that happens between, let's say 5:30 in the morning and 8 o'clock in the morning where you don't get that feeling again.
Yeah.
And I really cherish it.
I do too. This is a good debate. I just got in a debate with my neighbor about this. He uses that time to work out. And I said, look, I'd love to use that time to work out, but you know what? When I'm home, that's one of only 2 moments in time I get to spend with my kids that I find less distracted. It's easy for me to compartmentalize that block, to your point, because you're coming in with new energy. You've gotten sleep. Well, hopefully you got some sleep the night before if you have little kids. And it's like, great, there's energy to the day, and they're getting off going to school when I'm going to work. So I sort of cherish that time with them, and I use that energy. On the weekends or something else, you can kind of use that time to decompress, right? And grab a coffee. You can sit outside. Sun's coming up. There's nothing better than that in terms of spending your morning. But that morning is key. It's just, I wish I could actually just sleep less and wake up earlier because I could do more in that block. But it's really just it's how you prioritize that time. You just got to be intentional. And for me, I've got to be routine. If I just sort of fly by the seat of my pants, it's pretty hard to get the value out of whatever you're spending time doing if you're just reacting to what's coming at you.
You betcha. Yeah, for those listening, I would say pay attention to the season of life that you're in. How old are your daughters, by the way?
5, 3, and 1.
Right. So we're in that phase. John Anderson, who's on our team, he's got three little kids, 2 girls and a boy that are in that same time, same age group. I was there once. We're now in mostly an adult kid phase of life. So it gets different. It's different. It's better. You get a little bit more of that time back for yourself in the morning. But some days, like, I wouldn't trade it. I would trade a lot of things to go back and have some of those little early mornings where I'm sitting on the couch with my daughter. We used to call it buddy time.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
that was just her and I, and those at 6:00 in the morning, as soon as she heard my feet hit the floor, man, she's popping up and she's out. And there's like, you get frustrated when you're going through it. And then once you're out of it, now she's 15, she's trying to be a Division I volleyball player. I hardly see her. And, it's like, now I'd love to have some of those moments back too.
Totally.
Well, yeah, I'd love to get to know the personal side of you, because I see a lot of you on LinkedIn, see a lot of you in the news media around the ag industry with some of the things Pivot Bio is doing. I see a lot of the business side, so it's fun to see the personal side as well. Just talk to us a little bit for those that are not as familiar with Chris Abbott and Pivot Bio. Just give us a little intro to the company and to you.
Yeah, for sure. So my background is probably not too dissimilar than a lot of folks in ag. I grew up in the Midwest. My wife's from the Midwest. We actually grew up in the same town in Minnesota where we live today. And, just sort of a normal kid. Went to Minnesota schools, went to Iowa and Minnesota for college. So I'm somewhat torn, at least on a couple days a week, of who do I cheer for. You balance it by just cheering against Wisconsin, Ohio State, and all the others that just kill us all the time. No.
So the Gophers and the Hawkeyes played last weekend. Did you have a good weekend or a bad weekend?
Well, a friend of mine who's an Indiana fan who just likes to rub it in because of how great they are said, "Which losing team do you cheer for today?" I'm like, okay, thank you, John. No, it's good banter that we have. And so, as I mentioned, we got 3 little girls, live here. My background has always sort of centered around capital or commodity markets, generally with a flair towards technology and sustainability. I started working in the long short equity hedge fund world in water, ag, and energy. So not just ag. Then went and worked for a large investment bank here in the Twin Cities, Piper Jaffray. I got a lot of exposure to great management teams, great operators, being able to pick stocks. You learn a lot, sort of trial by fire, when you're working in that industry, because being wrong can be painful. And then came full circle back to sustainability in water, ag, and energy. And over time, starting in, I would say it was 2015, just went sort of all in on ag. And that was real assets. On one side, you could see the trends around institutionalization of farm operations, vertically integrated farm operations. And you could see that, man, it's just a moment in time here until technology takes off. Because when this industry continues to get more institutional capital, more institutional management, that technology will come. Then we went through that rise of the craziness of ag tech investment from that 16, 17, 18, all the way up until the 21, 22 sort of peak of venture capital. And during that phase, I was fortunate enough to build a business with my partner Brian at Continental Grain Company, investing and partnering with ag and food tech companies. So all in on that. That's where I first got exposure to Pivot Bio as an investor 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago, and the rest is history. I ended up joining Pivot in 23 when I left Conti into that year. And it's just been a wild ride. the last 2 years at Pivot. And, really for us today, as we're focused, is, we try to think more, as I say, like a nutrition business and crop nutrition. You can't just think about nitrogen. We certainly can't just think about being the leader in nitrogen fixation with microbes. If you're going to set a customer up for success, or a distribution partner or a large enterprise partner, you've got to be strategic in how you think about delivering crop nutrition solutions. And so that's really something that I've pushed hard, and something that we're all focused on at Pivot. And so it's just been super exciting to see the last 2 years of a lot of change in our business. That's certainly not easy. But when we start to see what's happening this year for our business and what the next couple of years are set up to look like, I'm super proud of our team and just super excited.
Yep, amazing. Let's back up a little bit and just let's pretend if somebody's comes across this, is listening to this, doesn't know a ton about what you're doing, or what that means in the nitrogen space and how you're trying to disrupt the market. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So what Pivot Bio does foundationally is we gene edit microbes that fix nitrogen. So what's happening is those bacteria produce nitrogenase. You can take nitrogen from the air, atmospheric nitrogen, convert it to ammonia. And you say, well, okay, so why does the gene edited piece that you mentioned there matter? Obviously, there's a lot of microbes in the world that have that capability to do that. I think ag has sort of wrestled with this challenge for a long time. But here comes life science technology around gene editing tools. And what happens is microbes typically, in the presence of synthetic nitrogen, they're smart, right? These are biologic living organisms. When synthetic nitrogen is present, they downregulate that function. It takes a lot of energy to fix nitrogen. And so if it's there in the soil, they're not going to produce it for their own benefit. They're just going to sort of chew on it, as we say, or they're going to utilize some of that in the soil. And so they stop fixing. And certainly they stop fixing consistently, right? You get these sort of gyrations in, is that microbe working or not? Here comes gene editing. Now you can do two key things, which are foundational to our technology. Number one, you can upregulate. You can just amplify the amount of energy going to that particular pathway for that organism, which is fixing a lot more nitrogen, hundreds, if not thousands of times more nitrogen than when they weren't edited or if they were wild type. And then you do it more consistently. Once you do that, then you can start to really understand, how's it interacting with the plant? How's it interacting with other organisms in the soil? What's the timing of that fixation and excretion? And so our business foundationally is all around what we would say is those microbes that we're building and engineering are mini Haber-Bosch facilities, just like we've seen with our industry in the advent of synthetic. And so our company is all focused on deploying those across formulations. We have a liquid and furrow product. We have a seed treatment. We'll be launching a new formulation actually tomorrow morning, which is our dry formulation. And then we serve farmers through the independent dealer model, which could be seed dealers, or we have dedicated independent Pivot Bio businesses as reps, retail and co-op system, and then the enterprise partners. So we try to be Switzerland and support as many customers and partners as we can, and fly under the radar in that respect, and be a good partner. So it's been a great ride. It's just exciting to see. This year we launched 4 new products. Next year we've got a couple more coming. So you can just start to see the velocity in the business and the market around these things take off.
Yeah, really incredible. And then I watch just a kind of a fly on the wall in the world of the ag news media and LinkedIn, and seeing some of these things come through. Obviously, having some friends that work at the company and learning what I can from them over time. What makes your guys' unique approach to the market around nitrogen fixation the perfect thing right now? Because I just so much going on in the market around fertilizer, perception of use of fertilizer, perception of synthetic fertilizers, et cetera. The markets, there's so much going on. But what makes this a hit right now?
Yeah, there's a couple ways to answer that, and dynamics that I think are important context, right? Because you can get wound up around the axle on fertilizer price or the sustainability of fertilizer or challenges. And I just try to take a step back and say, look, fertilizer feeds half the population. Okay, so it may not be perfect, but it's critical. If we're going to solve these challenges, we're going to do it together. And so for our business, yes, we finally, it feels like finally, are seeing a lot of interest in the market. A lot of folks saying now, even fertilizer companies and large retailers, hey, nitrogen fixers are going to be foundational to how farmers grow crops. That's great, right? Because it felt for a while like we were on an island just shouting into the world, hoping that someone else would agree with us. Now you do start to see that tailwind. But at the same time, you're always navigating over a full market cycle, right? Anyone who's been in commodities long enough knows, just wait. It's either going to get better or it's going to get worse, but it will not be the same as it was today.
Yeah.
And so for us, we took a pretty more crass or capitalistic stance for our business when we think about our technology. Yes, gene editing is great. Yes, the performance is great. Yes, obviously drives a lot of us in the business. Our sustainability is great. But if you're going to have the biggest impact across any of those dimensions for the customer, no one cares if it isn't higher performing and cheaper.
Right.
Because as we say, it's not the farmer's job to both feed the world and save it. We've got to help them. And so how are we going to do that? And so 2 years ago, when I came in, we said, look, we're going to be cheaper in terms of a cost to produce and an ability to sell it to a farmer than synthetic fertilizer forever. And that's a hard statement to make, right? Last thing you want to do as a leader is make a sort of permanent statement like that. But we said, look, if we can't in commodity markets, we don't have a reason to exist. And so we spent, Mark, probably a year and a half until about maybe last fall. We got to a point where we can actually make this fertilizer, for lack of nitrogen, cheaper. And so today we make it for 99.5% less CapEx. That's 1/200th the CapEx of synthetic. Then we sell it for 30% cheaper on a price per pound or price per ton versus synthetic nitrogen. And we've engineered the supply chain to be nimble enough because of the technology that we have, because of the microbes. Your phone, just Mark, you may know this, but your phone is 120 acres of our fertilizer in the dust. So it's very elegant in terms of the supply chain and cost. And what it allows us to do is we can deploy that product in about 48 hours. We can hit any acre or any distribution partner in the United States.
Wow.
Okay, we know a lot of our customers can't get Amazon Prime in 2 days.
Right.
And so we've built a ton of infrastructure and spent a ton of capital in building that so that we could serve our partners, serve our retailers, serve our reps or our growers to deploy that technology. What does it now mean? I sell a product for cheaper. It's the highest performing source of nitrogen, weatherproof, doesn't leach, huge sustainability value there. But it just unlocks whole opportunity for our value chain. Our fertilizer partners, our distribution partners, our customers, they're actually paying less and making more profit, and they're solving real sustainability challenge. That's like the ultimate trifecta. That's what we tried to do. And now it's about leaning into that in the biggest way we can with more partners, more complementary products, and those guideposts of make it better, make it cheaper, and always look out for the customer. Doesn't matter where you are in the cycle. That guides you on your good days. It guides you on your bad days. You really know, what am I focused on doing today? If you anchor on those things, I find that thread just pulls you through no matter where you are.
Yeah. Fascinating story. So I'm sitting here thinking about this as you're talking from a leadership perspective. Like somebody's sitting in a room coming up with strategy. Somebody's, maybe it's driving on the road, thinking about strategy or hearing things from customers from an intentional leadership perspective, right? I mean, we've talked a little bit about what that means. There's things we get to do. There's things we don't get to do. There's things we have to prioritize. So it sounds like you're prioritizing infrastructure. Obviously I'm sure there's market research that's going into product research that's going into all this. So from a leadership standpoint, how do you decide what to focus on?
The best ideas always come from our customers and partners. So it's also what gives you a lot of energy, right? I mean, you have good days and bad days. The best thing you want to do if you have a bad day, go sit with a customer, right? Experience what they experience. Hear about some of the success stories that they had. Solve challenges if something didn't go right, which obviously happens all the time. Like that gives you energy, but man, you start to consume information. And I remember my first week on the job, Carson and I are driving from St. Louis up to Minnesota. I think it's day 3. And we stop in Boone in Iowa. And one of our longtime customers is just awesome. Huge, just progressive farmer, very thoughtful in Iowa. Steve says, Chris, I'm going to give you some advice. You got to stop talking about nitrogen. You got to start talking about crop nutrition. What I need from you is I need help thinking differently about crop nutrition. You already told me about nitrogen. I get it. That's why I use your product. Push me. Keep pushing me. Well, that helps drive strategy, right? So, okay. So how'd you use it? How did it work? Did it not work? What did it work best with? What do you wish we could do? Do we serve you in the right way? Are we giving you that data? Do we help solidify the ROI that we deliver for you? What else do you need? Like, just tell me anything you need in your business. And so you hear all that information, right? And you start to see the pattern. A lot of farmers are dealing with the same challenges or see some of the same opportunities. And so for us, Mark, it's been really simple. It's three pillars of our business. Number one is our product and our technology. We're going to invent and continue to own the space around nitrogen fixation, but we're not going to figure it all out. There's a whole bunch of partners in other macro and micronutrients or formulation partners we need to bring in. So it's our own innovation and open innovation. That's pillar one. Pillar two is our commercial infrastructure. As I mentioned, several hundred independent distribution partners, rep dealers, pivot bio dealers, retail and enterprise, and our back end, our ability to deploy products and bill for those appropriately. The third piece, which is a little bit maybe more amorphous or rounded in its edges, so to speak, is our network effect. And that's our thousands of customers, our thousands of partners, our board, our investor base that we're fortunate to have. Some of our digital tools that serve as a wrapper to set those partners in that ecosystem up for success. Those are how we orient our business. Now, if you're in our company, you don't just say, oh, commercial infrastructure, I'm just a sales guy. No, that's not true. You're contributing to the network effect. Furthermore, we know our partners face challenges and our customers around generational planning, financial acumen, mental health. And as I say, if you're my customer and you say, I got a challenge on a financial topic or mental health topic, and I say, man, Mark, I want to help you. Let's say it costs me, I'm making it up, $25,000. That's a big investment for me as a growth business to give Mark. However, if I got 10,000 customers, I just spent $2.50 and I got to help 10,000 people on whatever that topic is. So we launched this summer, and you'll hear more about it next year, the Pivot Institute. And the Pivot Institute is designed to bring partners together. It doesn't sell Pivot products. It doesn't talk about thought leadership of Pivot and its technology. It's saying we need a thing to coalesce around, even if it's a virtual thing, to bring partners together that are solving the same challenges for our farmers and put the farmer at the center of being the hero. As we say, farmer's the hero of everything that we do. And so we orient our business in that three ways. And it's amazing the ideas that start to flow from our team when they say, we had our a person on our HR team out with a customer, came up with an idea for the Institute. Okay, so think about what traveled there. You had a non-commercial person out in the field spending time with a customer that identified a challenge that's going to bring a solution to the Institute. That is pretty cool to see. It's not some dreamed up, fancy strategy in a PowerPoint deck. It was about spending time with customers. And so we do that. We try to keep it simple for our team. And then there's stuff that we know we got a right to win at, and we got to own that and dominate that. And then we got to have enough self-awareness where we need partners.
Yeah. I love to hear how those ideas come about and where they came from. How do you curate an environment within which people feel safe actually sharing those ideas? Because I think a lot of people have great ideas all the time, but maybe they don't feel like they're going to be heard, right? Or they're afraid it's going to get rejected. And it often does in cultures.
So I'm not sure you can force it. I think it starts with how do you hire? And in our case, I was just with two folks last Friday in our office. As I would say, we're out kicking our coverage, landing both of these people. But they are going to be world-class athletes, whether they show up on our comms team like they're going to do, or they immediately start interacting with product management or our customer experience that we drive with digital. They're going to touch all that. We hire the best athletes. We only have a few rules. Number one, you got to think about it with respect to our customers and partners. So make a decision that is going to set them up for success. Make a decision your family is going to be proud of. If you think about those two things and you make decisions, 99% of your decisions are going to be good ones. The second thing that we really want to focus on, which is a crass rule, but we hold ourselves accountable to it, is we have a no asshole rule. No asshole rule is exactly that. We don't hire them. We don't keep them. We had assholes as customers. We had assholes as partners. We had assholes on our team. Life's way too short. Okay, if I got to come to work every day and you got to go to work every day, or our customers are going to interact with us, come on. But if we're unhappy, let's just set someone up for success.
It's a good rule,
right? But you got to live by it, right? And it's hard. I mean, I had to fire a distribution partner. They were treating our team like crap. They were calling and yelling and screaming and swearing at our team. And I just said, look, this isn't this doesn't work for us. I know
Mhm.
you brought customers and revenue for us, but I don't want my team coming to work dealing with this because you're mad that you didn't, you know, get something in by a deadline. Um, and we fired them.
Mhm.
Do you know how much respect and rapport that generates to the team? And
Big
then
time.
they see it across their teams when there's no leadership there. It's like, hey, come on, we don't act that way in front of our retail partner, our rep partner, our customer. And so you just start to build that momentum from a grassroots. You can't just come in and say, hey, our culture is now, you can say any idea, there's no bad ideas,
Mhm.
and let it rip.
Yep.
Okay, I'm just going to go back to what I was doing. You've got to be really intentional,
Mhm.
and be okay that there's going to be some hard decisions that you'll make, and but you'll earn some street cred right away through those hard decisions, and that worked for us for our business.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time. Yeah. It's really important to have, again, those boundaries that we can set around, and people do get to treat us this way. They don't get to treat us that way.
Yep.
And that's, and when you actually hold hard and fast to it, that's really important. There's a saying that we often reiterate to our clients, which is nothing loses you a good employee like watching you tolerate a poor one,
Exactly right.
you know? So,
Exactly. I mean, we've all been on sports teams.
mhm.
If you're busting your hump in practice and working hard, and the coach's kid is a jerk that's on the team,
Right.
we all know how that ends.
Mhm.
Coach's kid is probably never successful. No one likes the coach, and the players leave. Yeah, and that happens all the time in companies. So
Yep.
you got to be unapologetic about some of these things.
You bet. All right, I want to hit a few key things before we bring this thing fully in for a landing here in the next 5 or 10 minutes. But what it's a different market today in ag than we had even a year or two ago. It seems like lower commodity prices are here for a while. We get to battle some mindset issues, and there's a lot of contractual, not contracting, but let's just contracting
Yep.
types of
Yep.
conversations, mindsets going on out there. How do you guide your team through this current market?
Yeah, I would say we're a little lucky on this one, Mark. This isn't some Chris magic strategy here. I mean, we're so fortunate the people that come to Pivot, they're here for a reason, right? We've got people that come from outside of ag, and there's different things that drive them, right? They come in and they say, I want to be part of the ag industry because they love the industry. As I always say, no industry is better. You get to go to work with your friends. I don't see that in enterprise tech. I don't see it in, fintech. Like there's just sort of familial effect when you come into ag, and I think that draws people in. It could be maybe you are in ag, but I want to help a farmer. I want to deploy new technology because I want to be a part of something different. Or maybe sustainability drives me to pivot, and so we get so much momentum from folks where it's not just a job. And it's amazing what that does in terms of unlocking creativity or operating at a certain pace of play. And so we're lucky, right? Like that's not a Chris idea. Um, but you got to foster that, right? And to use your term, you got to be intentional around that. What happens in this market? In this market, well, when you're intentional and you're focused on the customer and you're making a decision that your family is going to be proud of, what do? You find a way to take cost out. You serve the farmer better. You reduce their risk, and so you're always problem solving. And it's the advantage we have as a growth company is we can be nimble.
Mm.
Give you an example. The last 2 years, we said, we're gonna take price down. We're gonna prove to our farmers that, to your point, as the market's coming down, we're gonna come down faster and we're gonna save them money. What are the two decisions we had to make? A, are we aligned as a team? And B, do our investor and board members support us? It took
Mhm.
like 5 minutes.
Mm.
Great, let's go. It's an amazing amount of energy when you show up to a customer or partner and say, I took price down 30% this year. And then they came back this spring and said it's down another 10% when everything else is going up. And here's why. We're so excited to talk to you about our technology and the performance and the improvements that we made. Why? Because the energy just came back positive from that customer.
Yep.
Thank you. No input company took that cost down. You know what? I love the technology. They get excited when they hear about new technology. We as consumers, that's a natural reaction. And so we really try to lean into those things that we can control. And you just got to be clear eyed about it. You know, you can, and whether it's because your investors or other stakeholders pull you in different directions, say, well, you got to price to value, or you can never lower price. Like, well, that's BS. Okay. We live in a commodity market. Things are up and down every single day, every single minute. Let's just embrace that. Let's embrace it and try to figure out how to set the customer up for success. Nothing else really matters. Just be focused on that. Insulate yourself from the noise of the space, and competitors will say negative things or positive. Who cares? Just insulate yourself. Be focused and have some conviction in what you're doing. And that really helps you get through any commodity cycle.
Right.
Because
I think we just need to put together a whole training, Chris. We could go another half an hour on just how to insulate yourself from the noise, because I mean, let's be honest, in ag, I mean, we do a great job of just beating each other up. What's interesting about the industry is like we're all on the same team at the end of the day. We're trying to accomplish the result of keeping the world fed, providing, safe, affordable, healthy food to a growing world. And so we're all on the same team, and then we just rip each other apart on the way there.
It drives me nuts. I could, and even worse, Mark, mathematically, it's not a zero-sum game, because last time I checked, the markets get bigger every year, and the criticality of what we do gets more important every year. And there isn't a single silver bullet. No matter how great we are, we're not going to solve all these challenges. No matter how great Bayer or Corteva's, they're not going to solve all the challenges, or CF and Nutrien, world-class organizations. But come on. Can we just work together, set the farmer up and set everybody up for success? It's an integrated value chain. How lucky are we? We get to see how it all works together. It's right there on paper. Let's just knock it off. And again, goes back to the no asshole rule. You treat a partner that way, you don't have a job here. And we had to do that. We had to let some folks go that weren't living that rule. To your point, because we were as guilty as any of trashing partners or not treating people with respect. And I just, life's too short for that.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. What's been the biggest challenge you've had to overcome along the way of getting from where you guys started to where you're at today?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of challenges right along the way. There's no challenge that's too big. I mean, I try to stay in the middle, don't get too high when things are good, and don't get it too low when they're bad. Maybe that's just a byproduct of public markets or commodity markets. You kind of a little tone deaf or insulated on that. But the biggest thing for us was just a cultural shift for our business. We started as a startup. 3 years later, in terms of our commercial journey, 3 years into it, Russia invades Ukraine. Commodity prices go through the roof. We think we're geniuses because you can't sell enough product when you're a third the cost of fertilizer, and then they come down 70%, and you're like, oh no, were we doing a good job? Were we lucky and not good? And there's a lot of reflection that you need to have there. There's a lot of ego and decisions that got made that people thought they were geniuses, and that can create strife between teams when then the cycle goes the other way. And so there's always cultural challenges, not just because we live in a cyclical industry, but because we're just a growth company, right? And no one's done what we've done in a long time, in trying to break out of this venture and growth and become more of a entrenched player in our industry. And so there's not a blueprint for us. And so that's hard, because you got to bring people along. You're trying to manage culture and the evolution of the business along the way, and trying to do that. I remember my first quarter in on the job was Q4 of 23. In our space, fertilizer was up 300%, followed by down 70%. Commodities were rolling over. We were changing around the business, restructuring. We had investors, coming after me and coming after us, because they don't like me getting hired, and just it was so much stuff. And you just thought, what can we anchor ourselves back on here? We know that there's world class. We know we're here for our customers. We believe in our technology. We've got conviction in what we're doing. And then I was just so proud of the team that we built. As I say, there's no better team in agriculture, and I try not to be arrogant with these statements, but this one I'm going to be. There's no better team in agriculture than our Pivot Bio team. From the leadership team that have decided to join us from big companies to the folks that started yesterday. I'm just so impressed and proud of our team, and that helps get you through it, right? And so that's just what I'm super excited about. And we use those opportunities and learning experiences or challenges, as you described them, to make us better. And we did that with our price, our performance, with our team, and it's really paying off for us. So I'm really proud of our team.
You bet. Well, at the end of the day, people can say what they want. It boils down to results, and one result you can take a look at is what are the kind of people you're attracting into your business,
Yep.
and it's a very very good indicator of where things are going to go, come hell or high water. So,
Right.
Chris, as we fully bring it in for landing, real quick, what's a resource, a book, podcast, something that you listen to, read, or watch that would benefit the listeners of the Intentional Ag Leader podcast?
Well, I'm a sucker for podcasts, as you know. The thing I'm actually trying to do more of is read podcasts on Audible. I find just sort of easy to consume information, but reading actually that just sort of fits different with me. It's funny you ask. Actually, just send in a box over here. Actually, you can see over my shoulder. On one side of my life, the non-work side, I'm a big Peter Attia and Outlive fan, and it's one thing, as I was mentioning earlier, I just got to get better about being intentional on my own health. I've just got lazy, frankly, the last year or two, and so that one it really for me simplifies down of what really matters. If you're going to be healthy, if you're going to be present for your family, you want to live a long time. There's a few things you just got to nail. Just don't overthink it. They've got a ton of press. I think the book's fantastic. So Outlive is one. On the other hand, one that's a little bit less known, certainly less known in our industry, is the book The Outsiders. It's about capital allocation. So these are management teams that have been just outstanding at compounding growth and building market cap or enterprise value over time. A lot of folks that you probably, the average person's never heard of. And it really, for me, gives you good framework, good confidence in what you're doing. To your point, it's hard to insulate yourself. But when you kind of see what's been done before and you can really learn from those world-class operators and management teams that have done it over a full cycle, it's super interesting. So Outsiders is another great book for the work side of my brain.
Love it. We appreciate the recommendations. So we're taking now all the recommendations we get from our podcast guests, who often are in our target market, and we work with a lot of the companies of people who are on the show. But we have a tool inside of our Momentum 360 membership now called Jericho, and what it does is it helps companies understand who on their team needs what training. And then once we understand that and we apply that to the capabilities required for that person to do the job, we take these books and we have a resource library, and it actually makes recommendations. Hey, here's a book that will support your journey in the development of being a salesperson or being a CEO or being a whatever. Here's a book, here's a podcast, so we're literally harnessing this in resources and then giving those out to people to help build hyper personalized growth plans, which we think is going to be the way of the future. So.
That is so huge, Mark, to hear that. We've tried to do it just ad hoc through our mentorship and leadership development, as we have folks that have experience at other companies and whatever, and we try to build sort of a library, so to speak, on that. But if you've got a structured way to do it, man, that's just huge. I give you guys a lot of credit for building that.
Yeah, we found that was the challenge with almost every single company that we ever do business with. So you said, could we just create technology to solve for it? And we did. So we're excited to bring that out in 2026.
Very cool.
Yeah, you bet. Well, Chris, thanks for being on the show, man. This is fantastic. It's been really cool to look under the hood and see the way your brain works, the way you think about this, and what intentional leadership looks like for you. And man, we wish you guys all the best.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Mark. It was great to see you too.